Hey guys, welcome to Harry Dating Convos. This is the show where we talk about love, dating, relationships, and everything in between. I'm your host, as always, Harry Wilmington. And on today's show, we are going to be talking about why what your girl wears in public actually matters. We're going to talk about that because there's always this discussion about, women's autonomy and their ability to wear what they want to wear, regardless of if they're dating somebody or not, and or how the world's going to view them. And I think it's an interesting conversation within the context of a relationship where people are trying to consider another person and trying to figure out if the things that they're wanting or not wanting from them are actually reasonable, or if there are things that can result in them thinking the other person is being controlling or insecure or jealous or whatever. And I think it's an interesting conversation to unpack, especially from the woman's point of view. But I want to get into, for the men specifically, like why it is actually a big deal. And two simple words you can tell women the next time they bring up this idea of, well, I should be able to wear what I want to wear and it should be no big deal. So we're going to get into that. We're going to also talk about other stuff. And if you guys have questions you want to ask during the course of the show, you guys are welcome to leave your questions in the chat and we will get to those as well. So with that said, let's get into this episode of Harry Dating Convos. All right. And as always, this show is brought to you by my website, harrywilmington.com. You can go there now to check out my various ebooks, my audiobooks, my programs, including this one right now. As always, this show is brought to you by Get Girls Academy, my exclusive program designed to help you attract, date, and keep the women you want. As a member, you'll gain access to proven strategies, insider tips, and bi-monthly group coaching sessions where we tackle your biggest questions live. Click the link in the description to learn more and join today. So you can check that out at the website. And if you have any questions about that, you can always write me at harrywilmington@gmail.com. So before we get into the main crux of the show, I actually have a situation I want to go over. There's as you know, I have the Get Girls Academy. And as part of that academy, members are able to write me and ask me questions and also give me updates and feedback on the things that they're trying out there in real time. And so I've had a few guys in my group end up actually getting with other women to have as girlfriends. And so what I'm discovering throughout the process of coaching them is something very important, which is this, is that just because you learn the functions of a relationship and the functioning of like how to do X, Y, and Z thing to get A, B, and C result, if you haven't changed like your mentality and just how you feel about yourself, then you could still potentially trip up and mess up and still be anxious and nervous, even if a woman's already said, yes, she wants to date you and be your girlfriend and all this other stuff, right? So I've been coaching a few guys through situations where, the holidays came up, their women had to go away for a while, and then some of them are not being as communicative, and other ones, though, are being communicative, but because of how they feel about themselves, they're still worried that the girl maybe doesn't like them as much. So I have a client of mine who, right after he and his girl became official, she had to go out of town for like 3 or 4 weeks for a family vacation that had already been planned, right? So she's been on this vacation, and there's been times where he's wondered if, because I tell guys all the time that a big complaint a lot of women have is that guys are texting them too much, or if they're not constantly on their phone, that something's wrong. And so I've had to coach many a guy about the fact that, wait, see this plugged in? Oh, wait, hold on a second. Let's see something. Hold on 1 second. Check. All right. Let me just see how this sounds. Hold on a second here. Just checking the sound, guys. Hold on a second. Forgot to plug my freaking mic in. All right, there we go. That looks good. Hold on a second. Or should we get that picture sitting right up? All right. There we go. Should work. Making corrections in real time, people. All right. So basically what I was saying was this, is that I want to go over briefly. There's always a situation that arises when you start to actually get good at dating, which is that even if you get good at the mechanics of dating, the reality is if you have not fixed yourself and done the inner work to be less anxious, to be more confident, then even when you're having success in terms of girls saying yes to dates, hookups, or even relationships, if you haven't figured out the stuff within yourself that you need to fix, then you could still have issues arise whereby you could end up unintentionally causing the girl that you're interested in to still want to eventually leave. And so I've had a few guys I've coached whereby their anxiousness and nervousness, and to be fair, they've had stuff in the past happen that caused them to be a little bit, on edge about dating and not always being so trusting of the process. I've found that it's been interesting having to coach those guys and telling them, hey, like everything's fine. But especially during the holidays when like people went out of town. I had one guy who I'm coaching who his girl went out of town for 3 or 4 weeks. And so he's wondering if because he's not on the phone with her all the time, if she's actually keeping her interest there. And I've had to coach a bunch of guys about the fact that you being on the phone all the time is not going to actually keep her interested. And I notice sometimes I'll say that and women will say, well, I want a guy that I know is making efforts to impress me. And if he's not texting nonstop, how will I know that he likes me? And I just found that is always bad advice. Like even women that say they want a guy to text them nonstop, from personal experience, trying that strategy has never worked out. So I've had to tell these guys, the strategy you had before is you were trying to text them all the time and you were using texting as a barometer to gauge her interest. But that oftentimes ends up chasing them away. So you have to trust that if a woman likes you, even if she's gone away on vacation, she has you on the brain. So I have this one guy that I'm coaching whereby he's recognizing that internally he needs to fix himself because his girl's on vacation, right? And so I like I said, I told him, he shouldn't be the one constantly initiating. But I also said that if she has a high enough interest, she will reach out. And so what he's saying is, on the one hand, because he's not doing all this work, he feels as though maybe she's not as interested. But on the other hand, he writes me and says she is initiating texts with him every day. Either she's sending at least 1 or 2 texts to tell her about her day, or she's been sending him videos. Like she's been having regular contact with this guy the entire time she's been on vacation, and he's still feeling, but I'm still not sure if it doesn't feel like we're quite together, or I feel like I'm afraid if I don't do that, her life's going to dwindle. And so this is where I think Corey Wayne calls it like the falsity of like action, whereby guys think that if we're not constantly doing actions, then a woman's going to lose interest. And it is actually, it's understandable. You as a guy should be doing things on your end to make sure that you're doing your part. But I think the problem with guys is we overextend and we overdo. And we don't ever stop to consider that if we just take a second to stop and consider, and to take a moment to just kind of be patient and lean back and let her come to us, that we'd have better success. Because there's this whole idea of like, who should chase whom? Should the guy chase the girl? Should the girl chase the guy? But the reality is both people are supposed to be showing interest and pursuing each other. And what guys sometimes do is they overburden women with the way that we want to express our love by calling them all the time, texting them all the time, being around them all the time, trying to give them all the compliments, buy them all the gifts. Like we just throw on all these things, and then we wonder why women are going away. And it's in part because we didn't leave space for them to come to us. And in a relationship, there's got to be that reciprocity there. Like if only one side is always giving, that makes them the martyr. And sometimes people in relationships try to do that. They try to be like, I did everything and I tried to be my best and they never did anything. But really what was happening was they were pushing away that other person's efforts, or they weren't leaving space for that person to come in and show their effort. So guys will throw a lot at a woman up front and then get mad at her for not matching the effort. But it's like you done thrown like 7 things at her and she's trying to get at least 1 out there. And you're saying, that's not good enough. I did 7. So the other end of that is guys get freaked out when they're not doing as much and they're still getting results. In this case, this guy leaned back on being the one to initiate text all the time. And the result is she's texting him all the time. And he's worried that it's going to dwindle. But he's literally doing what I've said for him to do, which again, I give this advice based on what has worked for me. I found that if I'm in a relationship or dating somebody, the less texting I do, the better results I get, the quicker that women are to respond to my text when I do send them text out. And so that's what I've had to coach them through. But it's interesting that, like, if you go for a while without getting the kind of success in dating that you want, that when you do start to get it, it can still feel like failure. And part of that is if you're doing new things in order to get potentially better results, understand that it's going to take a while for those new things to feel like a natural part of you. And so you could feel as though if you're not doing what's natural to you, that either it's a trick or that eventually it's going to stop working. And that also speaks to, it's not just about the process of dating, it's about building up your confidence. Because if you do all the right stuff, but your confidence isn't there, you're still going to blow it. And so as important as it is for guys to focus on the actual mechanics of how attraction works, approaching women, taking them on certain dates, having certain conversations, all that stuff is very important. But equally as important is, how are you as a man? How are you showing up? How are you feeling about yourself? Are you confident? Are you a guy that can look at your life and say, any woman that jumps into my life would be happy to be here? Or are you a guy that's apprehensive or nervous? Do you have past traumas that you haven't gotten over? Were there exes that cheated on you and you're still holding on to that, and that's causing you to have not so much success in your current dating game? If that kind of stuff is happening, then you really, really, really need to work on the inner work first before learning techniques, because techniques are only going to be a band-aid. And dating techniques will actually work, but only if you are fixed as a person enough to where when the results work, you'll be able to still be there as your authentic self. If you're just learning game from me or whoever to try to get women, you will get women. You will not keep women, though, because they're going to see like it's more of a mask versus, oh, this is part of your personality. And underneath all these techniques you're using is a guy that A, genuinely likes her, and B, is actually confident in himself and feels as though he's worthy. If you don't feel like you're actually worthy to keep women, then no amount of game is going to keep them around for the long run. Or if they do stay around, they're not going to have a good time, you know? If you need help with that kind of stuff, you can watch my videos on YouTube. You can also go to harrywilmington.com and sign up for any of my programs or for coaching. But I just want to address that early part of the show here. All right. So let's get into the meat in this program, because I'm ready to talk about it, right? So today we're talking about why what your girl wears in public matters. And you probably already know the answer to this, because if you're a guy watching this, you've experienced women around you, or maybe you dated women that have worn like loose clothing or provocative things, etc. Right? So I want to start off with what sparked me to want to talk about this topic. So I am on Medium now as a writer. You can go to medium.com, I think, /Harry Wilmington. You can just type my name up on the Medium platform. I'm a paid partner, so if you go there and read my stories, I get paid for it. It's amazing. But anyway, so in the process of being on there, I am consistently reading content to react to, because I found that reacting to other people's comments by way of my own blog, it gets a lot of traction, but also it's just an interesting experiment to see how other people are thinking about things. I've had a lot of people challenge things that I write, and I love challenging other people about things that they write. So it's a great platform to read for overall. But anyway, so let me try to get the blog here that I want to address specifically. So there was a blog that somebody put up on Medium, and the author was Mona Lazar, and the title of her post was "Woman," quote, "Woman, if you don't want to be seen as a sex object, stop dressing like one." Subtitle, "The Voice of Entitlement." So this is a blog where she's talking against this. That was a sarcastic title. And so here's the story that she starts off with, right? So she has this story in there where she says this. So basically, she says a few years back, she was chatting on Facebook with a friend of a friend. And it was this guy that she met a week before. So it's a guy that she doesn't really know all that well. They met a week before, and now she's talking to him on Facebook, right? And as far as she's concerned, it's an innocent conversation, no flirting or anything, literally just talking and getting to know each other, right? So she says they live close to each other. And so at some point, she asked him to come over to her place to continue the conversation face to face. And so as she tells the story, she says, he came, we talked, drank some wine, no big deal. He left the house a few hours later, right? So then she says, as far as she's concerned, this whole interaction had zero romantic or sexual implications. As far as she's concerned, nothing they had talked about in the conversation indicated some kind of direction of sexual conquest or anything with it, right? So that's as far as she was concerned. So she was surprised a few hours later when she talked to the mutual friend that they had, and the other friend called and asked, hey, so do you have a thing for so-and-so? And she couldn't figure out why he would think that she had a thing for him. And then in the story, she says she found out why. Basically, when he went over to this person's house, to this girl's house, right? She was not wearing a bra. So she was wearing a shirt. I don't know what kind of fabric she was wearing, if it was like a thinny thing or but the point is she was wearing a shirt with no bra. And then he assumed, based on that whole scenario, that she must be interested. And then so she says in her blog, I was stunned. The attire I was supposedly trying to entice him with was this yellow sundress I had been wearing for years around the house. It was what I had on the entire day because it was comfy. I didn't put it on, especially for him, and my braless breasts were that way because of one simple reason: comfort. Bras are uncomfortable, you know? I mean, as a guy, I don't know, but I've heard plenty of stories. I got to take your word for it. She says, I told her the story, and she concluded that he was an idiot, as did I. It was just one example of how delusional some people can be, and how something as simple as an unintentionally revealing dress can be considered an invitation for something more. This happens a lot, and sometimes with very unfortunate consequences. Women's attire is often considered a reason for them to be G-raped, sexually assaulted, laughed at, or SLUT shamed. And then she goes on basically to say, women are not forced to wear huge body bags to cover themselves, but anything more or less revealing is frowned upon, and more religious societies consider it a shameful attempt to entice men and make them lose their minds and control their fiery loins. And then she goes on this diatribe, basically saying that, you know, men overall shouldn't be thinking that every time women wear something that's like sexy or provocative, that it suddenly means that they're inviting attention to them, right? Now, I will start off by saying this. I believe that this woman is absolutely correct. I feel as though just because a woman is wearing, you know, a shirt with no bra on, or God forbid she goes into public. You saw the picture I used for the thumbnail, right? Where she has like the shorts on, the tight shirt, and the tight shorts and stuff, and the midriff showing and whatnot. Like, just because a woman goes out into public like that, it does not mean that she's trying to elicit male responses or reactions. It doesn't mean she's trying to go out there to seek out a man. And so as a man, you need to be mindful of that women out there today, especially in 2025 now, they are wearing a variety of things that in the past may be considered very inappropriate for outside wear. And it's a judgment call. Women feel a certain way about that. And so I will say that ultimately, yeah, it does not necessarily mean that, and you should not always assume as such. Now, that said, here is the main issue I had with her. Well, actually, I had several things that I had issues with. But the main thing that I want to pull up is this, right? Is that for years now, women have expressed the fact that men do not pick up hints very well. They will say, I looked at a guy a certain way, and then I looked down and looked back up, and that was my signal that I wanted him to approach me, and he didn't approach me. How could he not read that signal, you know? And so, and then there's other things like that too. Oh, well, you know, I texted him and told him I wanted him to come to this party. I thought that would let him know that I'm inviting him specifically and that I had the hots for him. And there's always these things that when women are doing them, they're assuming that us as guys are going to pick up their hints, right? And we get bashed for that time and time again about the fact that guys don't pick up passive communication well, that we're not good at looking at particular body movements or facial structure, the things that women are doing to indicate that they want us to talk to them, right? Totally fair point, except for this, is that the problem that men have is we hear that from all women. And then we hear that a specific hint means that a girl is most likely interested, right? And that hint that a woman's giving could work for like 5 women. And then we get to like women 6, 7, and 8, where that hint either didn't mean to be thrown out or potentially wasn't there, or it was just her being friendly, or she didn't mean to do it. It didn't mean anything. It just kind of happened. And oops, that wasn't what I meant you to read into it, right? And so that's where the problem that I don't think women understand is that they are giving mixed messages about which signals actually mean that they want us to potentially know that we like them. So in this woman's case, right, her whole argument is set upon just because I wore a shirt where I didn't have a bra on and my nips were potentially poking out and I had cleavage showing, because that's probably what was going on, right? That just because all that was happening, it doesn't necessarily signal that I was interested in this new guy that I invited over. Now, she's also ignoring the fact that, again, I'm going back to women complain about men not looking at signals, right? In this story that I just read you, this woman did what? She met a guy at a party through a mutual friend. So she didn't know this guy. She only met him that one time before she was talking to him. And then in the process of talking to this new guy that she doesn't know, she decided to invite him over to her place where they would both be solo together. Universally, that those actions are typically seen as signals to men that, hey, I'm inviting you over to my place. We're going to probably do some stuff. And I like to think that women are smart. I think in many cases they're actually smarter than men because they know better how to read into language and signals and stuff like that. What I don't like is when women that I know are smart act in ways that indicate that they're not so smart. Because, for example, when I was a young dater and did not know what I was doing in life, right? I had to learn all these signals and things that I'm talking about from women. So, for example, when I was in college, there was a time where I wanted to I made a bunch of food and I was going to watch a movie and I didn't want to watch it alone. I had some female friends on campus and I decided, you know what? I'm going to call them up one by one and see who wants to come over to watch this movie and eat this food. And because I was a virgin, that is as far as I thought into the night. I did not think that me saying dinner and a movie was an indicator that I'm trying to get stuff popping off sexually, right? I didn't know that signal. You know who taught me that signal? Women taught me that signal. So I had to learn from women in college that, oh yeah, when you invite a girl over for dinner and a movie, us women assume that means you want sex. So if we show up, it probably means we want sex. That is not something that I got taught from men. It's what I learned from women, right? So, and true to point, ever since I learned that lesson, almost any time I've been dating a woman and we haven't done anything to hook up, and I've invited her over for dinner and a movie, or she's invited me over for dinner and a movie, it's resulted in a hookup. Now, just because I know that, does it mean that I expect that every single time I get invited over for dinner and a movie? Or do I expect that she's going to think that's going down if I invite her over for dinner and a movie? I do not. But I'm fully aware that for society at large, dinner and a movie is typically code for sex. And women know this too, because again, I got taught that by women. So when women tell me something like, well, I knew that a guy that I just met was coming over, but I thought it'd be cool to wear my shirt with no bra on and my nips popping out and it'd be totally fine. He wouldn't look at me sexually. I got to call bullcrap on that, because women typically are learning this stuff way earlier than men are and are better educated on it. But that's the thing in our society, is that we allow women to play dumb when it doesn't suit them. Because in this case, if this guy that came over had been decently attractive and she had the hots for him and he came over and she liked the way that he smelled or whatever, she'd be on this blog complaining about how, I gave him all the signals. I flirted with him on the phone. I invited him over. I made sure I had no bra on, and yet he didn't pick up the signals. Again, how do I know that? Because I've had this same situation happen in reverse. I had a crush on a woman in college who, I had a crush on her. I was doing all the simp things to make her not like me. And so I basically ignored her for 3 months. And then she reached out and said, hey, I miss you. We should meet up, blah, 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 blah. And so this is the thing where prior to us not talking, she had a crush on me. And then I did all the things that women swear they want. I told her I liked her. I got her gifts. I complimented her. We were in the same classes. So I would help her with her homework, all this stuff. And At the point where I blabbed my feelings, she lost interest. So I shut up and I didn't talk to her for a while. And then she got reinterested. And I remember I was going to her city one time, and this is when I was still in college, still a virgin, still in college. And I said, I'm going to be in your area because I have to go meet up with some people to do something. And she said, okay, well, when you're done, make sure to stop by here so we can visit for a while. So I go do the thing I'm supposed to do. And then I head right to her apartment. I go up to her door. I knock on the door. And when she opens the door, she is in, this is like a Saturday afternoon, right? She is in the thinnest bit of nightgown that I've ever seen anybody wear, boobs all popping out, cleavage out here. But here's the thing, because I was going by the thing of like, well, until she actually tells me she wants me, I'm not going to assume anything. I just said, oh, hey, what's up, and walked into place and just talked to her normal. And the whole time she's like looking at me and like she's touching herself. And again, I'm really ignorant. I'm like 21 years old. I still don't know nothing, right? And so, yeah, she's giving me all these signals. And then after I leave, I realized, wait a minute. It's a Saturday afternoon. She's at home. She could have worn anything. Like she didn't have to show up at her door in lingerie, right? So fast forward, come to find out later, yeah, that was probably what was going to go down. But at that point, she was no longer interested because I wasn't catching signals like that, right? But that's the point. So here, you have my situation where girl shows up at the door, has a nightgown on, no bra on, looking and smelling all kinds of great, like she just got out of the shower. And that was a signal that she wanted me, right? And then meanwhile, then you have this girl who shows up at the door, no bra on, cleavage all showing and popping out, wearing a cute old sundress, probably smelling all good. And she's saying, that's not a signal. Is it any wonder why men are confused about dating and about what things they should or should not be doing? And so I'm not trying to take away from this woman's situation. Like I said, if she feels as though it shouldn't be a problem of what she's wearing and that guys shouldn't be inferring things, she has the full right to believe that. But I think it's ignorant to downplay the idea that there aren't signals out there that are universally known as indicators of interest. And when women are, even if they're unintentionally doing things that men are seeing as indicators of interest, like it's really frustrating that they just don't know, you know? And so that then leads into her bigger point about this idea that a woman should be able to dress however she wants, even if it's sexy dressing, because at the end of the day, like she should be able to wear what she wants to wear and blah, 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 blah. And I hear this argument from women all the time. And I just want to address 3 important points that I think men need to know as it pertains to if you're dating a woman that's trying to fight you about, well, I want to dress sexy and, you know, I'm not trying to dress for other people. Why are you so jealous? Why are you so insecure? Because that's the argument you're typically going to get from women if you're dating the kind of woman that wants to show off her body. Now, I will preface this by saying, if you met her on Instagram and she was an Instagram model, or if you met her and she said her job is she is a lingerie or bikini model, understand that's going to be her lifestyle. And what I don't want you to do is be accepting of something that you know is going to bug you later when it's being shown to you up front. So if this woman up front is showing you and telling you, this is how I like to dress, this is what I like to wear, I'm wearing this on a date with you, and I'll also continue to wear these kind of clothes after we start dating and get in a serious relationship. If she's telling you that up front and you decide to say yes to this woman, don't assume you can change her mind later, because at that point, you've made the decision to date her based on what she was showing you, and that is not fair to her. I will start off by saying that. But with that said, these are the 3 main points I want to make. So for starters, the first point is that I often find that women are changing the goalpost of what is and is not acceptable. And to men, that's confusing. Like I said, you know, men get these mixed signals about, oh, like, you know, I'm just because I'm dressing this way doesn't mean I'm trying to like entice anybody, but then they're also enticing people. Like that's a very confusing message for men at large. And so for a man, you got to understand that I don't believe in mixed signals. I don't believe in people changing up on things. So if you met her and she was all modest and dressing all like, you know, relatively conservative, and then after you get into a relationship, she wants to dress all slutty, I'd have an issue with that, and that would be a conversation you need to have, because at that point, you got bamboozled, and that's not fair to you, all right? Here's the second main point that I want to make, and it's this, that I find women who actually have a high interest in you, rarely will those kind of women want to be showing their bodies off in public, because they are not trying to entice other men, and they're not trying to get you in trouble by putting themselves out there in a way that's going to make you have to either defend her or get her out of some kind of situation, right? Like, for example, I've never had to have a conversation with majority of women that I'm dating about having to cover up. I just find that the women that I'm dating of their own accord have decided I'm going to only reserve seeing my body for you. And I'll tell them something. I'll be like, hey, like, you know, it's 90 degrees outside. You don't feel like wearing like a shirt with some whatever. Like, I'll be honest, be like, hey, like, I'm not going to judge you for whatever you wear. I just noticed it's like 90 degrees out and like you're wearing a short sleeve shirt. It's cool. But, you know, other women would wear like a midriff showing. They'd be showing cleavage. And the answer that I've gotten back is that, well, my body's only for you. Why would I want that other attention if I'm trying to just show it off to you? And so what I've come to learn is that when women have a really high interest in a guy, regardless of how they were dressing before, the reality is if it's something that's going to bug their man, they're usually pretty open to changing it up. I don't care if it's a woman that's like, oh, my body, my choice, I wear whatever, I do whatever. I have found if the high value, and value in a sense of like the kind of guy they've always looked at, it ain't got to be monetary wise, it can just be, he looks a certain way, he has a certain kind of swag, he dresses a certain way or whatever. But I found when women find that quote unquote high value guy that they have an interest in, all they're thinking about at that point is, I don't come across a man that I like every day. This man seemingly is the guy of my dreams. What do I need to do to make sure I don't lose him? If he says me trying to bare my cleavage and bare my midriff is going to make him not want to date me, then darn it, I'm not going to do it. And this isn't even about the guy being controlling. A guy can simply say, I don't like my woman like wears, you know, lingerie out in public as an outfit because it causes trouble in eyes and I don't want that. And as a guy, you are in your full right to tell women what you do and do not want. Now, they don't have to do it. You can tell women, I don't like women that dress sexy. And she could say, well, I like dressing sexy, so I guess this isn't going to work out. And that's totally fine because we're giving women the choice to decide what they want. If they decide that they want to wear sexy clothes, that's in their right. They just know they can't date you. Some women would call that controlling. I would call that a guy setting a boundary. And just like women set their boundaries that they want us to follow and respect, a guy can set the boundary of, I don't want those problems. I don't want the problems that come from my woman going out there and showing off her boobs and showing off her moose knuckle and all this other stuff, because that's going to draw negative attention. It's going to cause other guys to come up. And now I got to fight those guys and I don't want to fight, you know? And women are thinking it's about insecurity or jealousy. Men just look at the whole picture. Men look at the fact that you're going out here dressing in a way that basically is like throwing meat to the lions. I'm sorry if you don't like the terminology, but it literally is like, hey guys, check out what I have. Good luck. And the sad part is, it's nothing we even did. The girl we're dating is deciding, I'm just going to dress up today in a way that's going to bring up male attention, whether she's thinking that or not. That's what's happening. So at the point that a guy brings it to her attention and she decides, I still want to do what I want to do. Hey, again, guys, we're not in the habit of trying to control women. All you can control is your reaction and your decision to want to stay with her or not. But again, I found that most women that are pretty even-headed and have a good head on their shoulders and are smart typically understand that overdressing for a guy they're highly interested in when they're out, underdressing for a guy that they're not, underdressing for a guy that they're highly interested in when in public is not in their best interest, because chances are it's going to cause problems and they're going to lose that guy. So women of their own accord will make that choice without you having to force them to do anything, right? But more importantly, for the women that are going to try to make you say that you just don't understand, you're forcing them to make a decision. How dare you be jealous or insecure about what they wear? Why should what they wear in public affect you and whatever? Next time that comes up, give them these two simple words. Gray sweatpants. Yes, guys. These bad boys right here. Gray sweatpants in the flesh. These are some Nikes that I got, right? So I've had these for a while now. And I don't know if you guys know the universal thought that women have about guys wearing gray sweatpants. In short, women love it. Why do women love men wearing gray sweatpants? Because, especially if they're not wearing any underwear, let's just say there are some imprints that are showing down there that women really, really like. And so I have found when I've been dating and in relationships that women really, really love it when I'm wearing these gray sweatpants around my apartment. You know what they don't like? You know what they don't want to consider me doing? They don't want to consider me wearing my gray sweatpants in public. I've had women jokingly say, but when women say things jokingly, I assume they mean like really like, oh, ha, 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 you better not wear those gray sweatpants out in public. Now, why would a woman say that? Why would a woman try to restrict me from wearing these wonderfully fit and snug gray sweatpants in public? You know why? Because it's showing off the goods. And what women don't want is any threats out there that could result in me finding somebody else attractive. And so if I'm out there in the world wearing these gray sweatpants and another woman comes along that in her eyes is hotter and better looking and sees me in the gray sweatpants and sees potentially what I got going on in the gray sweatpants, well, now there's going to be a discussion of it. She's going to come over. She's going to try to flirt with me. She's going to try to see, what my situation is and all this other stuff. And again, whether this would actually happen or not, that's the thought that women are having if you're wearing these in public. So women will have conversations with their guys. I literally saw, I'm trying to see if there's an article that I found. I actually pulled this up earlier today because I was smart and thinking I was going to do this whole thing. So there was an article that I found by a girl, and the article was titled, "Should I Be Okay with My Boyfriend Wearing Gray Sweatpants in Public?" And she says, "Gray sweatpants season is upon us. I don't know what to do. Me and my boyfriend have gotten into arguments over him wearing gray sweatpants or sweatpants in general. The problem is his package down there is way bigger than average, so it leaves an obvious outline. And he's circumcised, so the head leaves its own giant outline. So you can just see his junk and head all swinging around at the size or a regular hard one, but he's not hard because it's just flopping around. Don't get me wrong, it's a turn on and I love seeing it, but I don't need other girls seeing it." So let's think back to the woman earlier that was wearing the shirt with no bra, which again is probably showing her nips out, and she's thinking, they're just nipples, it's no big deal, blah, 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 blah. And so the guy goes home and thinks, she must be interested. She called me over to hang out with her by herself, and then I get there, she's got no bra on, she's got nips popping, she's got cleavage showing, she's smelling good. These are all the signals I've learned from every dating coach ever that this girl's probably interested, and yet she's online complaining about how I thought I liked her because she had her nip showing. And yet this girl's worried that if any kind of imprint is showing at all, what's going to happen? Other girls are going to see it and going to think he's available and want to talk to him, and she don't want those problems. So here's where the hypocrisy comes in, is that women act like they don't understand the things men are trying to bring to their attention until it flips and it's on their end. So this woman has a whole blog talking about how she doesn't understand how guys can't see that just because she's wearing X, Y, and Z and wearing loose clothes or sexy clothing, that doesn't mean that there's necessarily an interest there. Or how dare guys assume that men are going to be interested, or that she's interested in those men because she's showing this stuff off. And yet, if a guy's out there with gray sweatpants on, women are assuming that he's interested and available and he's got stuff popping and she's checking out what's up, right? So I have found that sometimes, and this is true for both sides, because there are plenty of times where like women will say things to men like, hey, this is a situation I'm having, and guys like, that's not a thing until they go through it themselves. And then they're like, hey, woman, my bad, sorry, you actually were right, this is the thing, right? So I just found on both sides, but since this is talking about women in general, that oftentimes women don't really take heed to the problems and plights that men are talking about until they have an example in front of them whereby if they were going through the same situation, they'd also see it as like, oh, I get it. So if your woman's like, I don't know why I can't wear, my shirt out that's really loose and cleavage showing whatever to the thing, or with my arm showing, my stomach, chest, and like, why can't I do that? Just be like, gray sweatpants. Like, would you be cool with me walking out of the house wearing gray sweatpants with no underwear on? Would you be cool with me walking outside the house with just a Speedo on? A Speedo is technically covering. Would you be cool with me and you go together to a park somewhere, just walking around with me in a Speedo? Would you be cool with that? And in the moment, admittedly, women are very good at acting like they'd be totally cool with some stuff. They might be like, well, I mean, you can wear what you want, blah, blah, blah. But they know internally deep down, they would not be cool with that, all right? So I say to you, guy, don't feel bad about asking women that you're dating to not wear so much revealing clothing out. Now, lastly, I will say again, I believe women are smart, and I believe that they understand that when I'm talking about this point. I'm not talking about guys that are like so in their hetero phase or whatever, that it's like they're just like, no, if you're even showing your neck, then that's a problem. If you're showing your hair or whatever, like I'm gonna assume that women, if they read this or watch this, are understanding I'm coming from a reasonable perspective, and that, you know, a woman showing a little bit of shoulder is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about women knowing what hyper sexy looks like and trying to choose that as an outfit that they want to wear with their guy, when in any other context it would not be appropriate. Like a woman that'll argue with her man about, I should wear what I want to wear in public, would not wear that same outfit to work. That's what I'm talking about. So just consider that, guys. You're not insecure. You're not overly jealous if you're noticing that the girl you're dating is dressing overly sexy and that could potentially cause problems. You have every right to say, hey, I just want to know, I want you to know that I respect you. I respect your choices. I respect whatever it is that you feel you want to express yourself in by way of your clothing. But I'm telling you, if we're going out to these very situations, this is the problems that I have with what you're wearing. And I would respectfully ask that maybe you consider another outfit. If she chooses to say, F you guy, I want to wear what I want to wear, hey, again, we're not forcing women to do anything. She can wear what she wants to wear. It is in her right. But you also have the right to say, that's totally fine. I don't accept that. I'm out. And if she has an issue, understand, guy, it's better for you to get rid of those kind of women now, if that's going to be an issue for you, than it is to accept the woman now thinking you're going to change her mind later, or thinking, well, when she becomes a married woman, when she becomes a mom, she won't want to. Trust me, there are moms out there now that are still dressing sexy and their husbands absolutely hate it, okay? So just some things to consider. But hopefully, guys, you got some knowledge of that. So that's really all I have to say for this show. If you guys have any questions you want to ask me, you certainly can. Trust me, if there was anything else. There was another article that was here. There was a woman that did an article called A Woman's Case Against Gray Sweatpants. And she has this whole article talking about how she would always wear she'd wear like crop tops and tank tops, and she'd wear peekaboo waist. And she was always that girl who's just like it's my belly. I'm an adult. I can wear what I want to wear. How dare you be so controlling and so insecure about blah, 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 blah. And then she says, she dated another guy later. She said, I want my current partner, a man that I call a feminist, would never think of saying something about what I'm wearing. So basically, she's saying this guy's not going to judge what I'm wearing. She said, but I want to say something about what he's been wearing. The fall's arrived, temperatures are dropping, and as a result, he's been sporting something that I know makes other women raise an eyebrow, drool a bit, and maybe even take a picture on the slide for future reference. This single article of clothing has entire private Facebook groups. I didn't even know that. Entire Facebook groups dedicated to its existence. Women trade photos. Women are as bad as men. Like, don't ever let women fool you into thinking, oh, guys send us D pics. How dare they? Women are not only taking D pics, but also trading them with other women. But anyway, like baseball cards, instructing others to pervily pinch out at their phone screen to get a better look. I know this because I've done it too. The offending clothing item, the low-rise jeans of the 21st century? Nope, it's gray sweatpants. 1 week ago, I looked up to see my loved one on his way out of the door to walk our adorable 9-week-old puppy while wearing a pair of heather gray joggers. Insert Alfred Hitchcock movie screen. I feel terrible because now I understand when my boyfriend back in the day was tugging on my crop tops back in the day. I know it's not right to say this, but I don't want my man out here getting oogled or ogled while he's walking a puppy and hanging out with his cute as a button 7-year-old son. I am ashamed to admit this, but I asked him to not wear the gray sweatpants. He looked at me, rolled his eyes, and wore them again the next day. Bravo to that guy. And the next, as he should. He's a grown-ass man, but I will not lie. Those gray sweatpants, key guys, those gray sweatpants look like lingerie to me. Those are inside pants as far as I'm concerned. So again, sometimes, look guys, sometimes women are going to fight you on things that you're trying to bring to their attention, and they're going to fight you tooth and nail. That's not fair. How dare you say you're being toxically masculine and patriarchy and blah, 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 blah. But they know that there is a version of what you're talking about that if you were to do it, they'd also be throwing a hissy fit. So don't feel bad for pointing these things out. And ideally, you'll be with a woman that's able to at least hear you out and say, you know what? maybe not completely getting your perspective, but I'll try to see what I can do. Ideally, that's the conversation that she's going to have with you, and she's going to want to do it because she wants you as a partner. If she's not doing that, again, we're not going to tell women what to do and what not to do. We're just going to go away and find somebody more modest. Again, most of the women that I've dated, I don't even have to have that conversation with them. They are just ready to they're already kind of dressing modestly anyway, but like even when it's hot outside, they're still dressing in a way that, and especially for like women that have bigger boobs, I get it. Anything you wear, guys are going to look at you. If you're a D or F size in this world, you can wear a full turtleneck sweater in the summertime, and dudes are going to still be like, oh, she got some big curves in there. So I get it. We're not trying to discount that point. Anything you wear could be taken in a certain way. But women also, again, women are smart. I'm going to assume women know the difference between I'm putting on a regular old shirt and guys are ogling at me versus, oh, I'm putting on a shirt where the button's about to like break off and I got my whole waist and hip showing and my butts and these jeans look a little bit big. Like I assume that women know that when they're putting that stuff on, they know what they're doing and what they're going to look like, because I know women, they spend like 40 minutes getting ready. In the process of figuring out what outfit they want to wear, they have to know which ones are going to draw them more attention. I'm just saying. Anyway, guys, that's all I got for today. Thank you for checking out this episode of Harry Dating Convos. Be sure to check me out on Medium. Just go to medium.com, type in Harry Wilmington, and check out my blogs. Also, be sure to go to harrywilmington.com and check out my ebooks, audiobooks, and programs, all designed to help you be a better and more informed dater. Thanks for checking in. I'm Harry Wilmington, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. Hey there, thanks for tuning in to Harry Dating Convos. Don't forget to visit harrywilmington.com to download my free ebook, Texting Women Like a Boss. And while you're there, if you're ready to take things to the next level with your dating life, check out the Get Girls Academy membership program for exclusive strategies and live coaching. Go to harrywilmington.com to learn more and join today. Lastly, if you've got a question you'd like answered on one of these shows, leave a comment below or write me at harrywilmington@gmail.com. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.